Alright, so I'm going to show you how to modify the Fatshark lithium-ion battery case so that you'll be able to balance charge the lithium-ion batteries through the balance port, because the way it comes is it's a non-functional balance plug. Uh, it, it only has two wires, and that's only used to output 2S voltage to connect to the Fatshark goggles so you can drive the fan. So this is actually should be an easy mod for most people. What you have to do first is, of course, you have to disassemble the case. Some people do it through the outside, where they route the wire just through the outside and somehow tape it through here. Just use a tape through here and then just solder it at these connections here. But I don't want to do that. I want to route it through the inside so that it looks better. But anyways, just wanted to show you. You could do it like this. No, it'll work fine. But just wanted to do it through the inside, and I also want to show you the PCB to show you that it won't affect anything on the PCB here. Okay, so to get this cover out, you have to be careful because it's kind of tricky to get it out. First, you have to remove two screws, and these are tiny screws, and they're under this label here. So I just went ahead and punctured the label there, so you can see right through there. You just use a X-Acto or whatever knife you have, and then the screws are pretty small, and they have a really small head. So you have to make sure you have correct driver so you don't round the screws, and then you won't be able to get them out. So make sure you get a good Phillips and that it fits well, and then when you unscrew it, press down so that you get a good fitment, and then turn. Otherwise, these are soft metal, so they may round if you're not careful, and you don't wanna do that, because then it'll be really hard to remove it. Next thing is to pry these edges to release the tab catches here. It's kind of like the phones, where you have to get your tool in there and then push and pry it like that, little by little, and then it'll release the tabs. If you don't do that, you may end up breaking this part, and then this thing won't stay. It'll stay, but it may pop out. It'll stay because you still have the two screws, but just do it slowly and pry it like so, and then it'll release. Okay, so this is the PCB, and as you can see, it's all wire in parallel. This is coming from the 2S output, so it's just wire here in parallel, and that's just to monitor the voltage. So there's no there's no protection here. There's no voltage or current protection. This is just a display, voltage display. So the way I'm gonna route the wire is through the same grommet there, and then it's gonna go routed this way, then through here. Use the same thickness wire. Don't use too thick, because then you're gonna have space issues here inside the case. So I'm gonna route it through there, and then I'm gonna have to make a notch there, so that when I put the lid, it'll still close and then it's gonna be soldered right there. You can't really route it through there because then the battery goes in like really tight and it won't come out. You can salvage this connector from an old you can do it from an old battery balance plug that you may have salvaged. You know, you could just undo one of them and then just reuse it there, or you can do it from maybe you have some connectors. Well, they sell these at Banggood, you know, with the brand new connectors. So you have to do either one of those. You know, either you have the new ones or you salvage one from an old battery. So one of the easiest ways to do it is to get your soldering iron and use the finest tip you have. This one's almost like a needle tip, and you know, this you can just use this to make a hole through there. Just kind of like it'll just melt. So instead of notching it there, I'm just gonna make a hole through this portion here, and it should be able to. Anyways, you can start the hole anyways, and then you may have to use a blade or a screwdriver or something to enlarge it, but at least you kind of get it started with the iron, and just gotta make it big enough for the wire that you're gonna use. So there it is. It's kind of hard to see there, but there's the hole I made. You have to be really careful though, because this is kind of thin, so make sure you don't, you know, you stay within that portion there. And then you'll also need to get a little notch here. And then I'm also just gonna put a little notch right here on this ridge right here. That's just to allow the wire to be routed and not bulge out at this portion here. Of course, you have to do a little cleaning. So then just pull the wire through there. It's gonna be kind of tight, so make sure you grab the silicone part. Okay, so this one's kind of tight to get in there, so I just used this small flat head screw and just kind of shove it in there until it pops out on the other side. Just be careful not to damage the other wires. You don't want to short right there. So it's just kind of starting to pop out right there. All the mods in this hobby are not usually straightforward, so you have to have patience. These are handy little tweezers, so you can fish for the wires. So there it is, and then you can just pull it and make sure you leave the same, it's about the same length as the original ones. Then put that back in there, and then drop this one through there. And the wires routed through there, through the hole I made through there, and it's gonna go through that notch there. So just cut it to length. You just want to leave enough wire so that closes easily. Okay, just applying a little bit of solder there. I'm using max heat because that's a good heat sink right there, so you can get a good solder. And there it is. Check that it closes. And of course, make sure you use silicone wire because that it's more flexible and it won't break after opening several times. And now check fitment of the cell. Goes in okay, and it'll clear the wire there. It's always good practice to check for shorts, so just put your multimeter in continuity and check for shorts. So the middle wire is the one that I just added. Just check against the other ones here. It's good. And check with these, but that one should it should beep through here as it's supposed to. And now just place the lid back and you're done. Looks like that's the way it was meant to be. Just one side note about the batteries. If you're gonna do this mod, you know, get a good set of quality lithium-ion cells, because that's not gonna make a difference. If you buy the cheap ones, they don't hold the charge too well, or they don't have the advertised capacity. These are Panasonic NCR 18650. They're one of the best. Everybody knows these cells. These are one of the best to use. They're a little bit, you know, you'll pay a little bit more, but in the end it's going to be worth it. You'll have a battery that's going to last longer, and will have lots of cycles. I believe these are around $6 to $7 each. I'll put the link on the video description. You can get them from Banggood, and even though they come from Banggood, they're actually, well, the ones I got are the authentic ones. So that's another thing to check. You know, you wanna make sure you get them from a place where they don't have fakes, because they do counterfeit these a lot. Alright, so now that the wire's routed and soldered right there, it's time to put the lid back on. And it just snaps into place. And yep, the notch I made there and a little bit here on the black lid allows the wire to come through, and it doesn't bulge out too much. So actually not just, yeah, it'll still bulge out a little bit, but that's fine. I still snapped in place by the tabs, and then the screws are gonna hold it in place. Then these are tiny, so you have to make sure you have the correct Phillips driver head, so they don't get messed up. And you can see the wire through there, more or less. And the batteries go there. So what's happening is at this point where I solder this wire is actually pushing. It's pushing on the cell. It's pushing on the cell here, so it pushes it down too much, and it doesn't make contact with that point here. So what I can do is I can put some solder on top of that there, so that it'll touch. So let's add a little bit of solder there. And it's hard to see, but now it's making contact where it wasn't before. So, and it closes. It closes okay. Let's check the voltage. So it should still be 2S, of course. 7.05. Each battery is at 3.5. So on the balance plugs, there should be 3.5 on each set. So 3.5 between those first two, and then of course 7 full voltage between the two on the edge, and 3.5 again between these two right there. So let's see how it balance charges. Let's set it to the correct battery, lithium ion, and 1.5 amps is okay. You could probably do 2 amps at 1C, and get the voltage right, 2S. So now let's hook it up and hook up the balance port. Let's see. Seems to balance charge just fine. So there you go. That's the mod for the Fatshark battery case. Balance charges pretty good now. Of course, they probably didn't want to give people the option to balance charge these because of the danger, you know, of these batteries. So they want to make sure you charge them individually on a dedicated lithium-ion charger. But you know, most of us know how to charge each battery type. So of course you have to make sure you set your charger to lithium-ion, and you use the correct balance port, and should be safe. Of course, you always want to charge them supervised. Don't charge them near flammables. Not inside the house, definitely. Try to charge them outside, or if you have to be inside the house, then just make sure you keep an eye on them. All right, hope you find that useful, and until the next one.